Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. Thank you for joining us this week. I am Jason.
I am John. We had Miami coming in for our second conference series of the new year. Miami in the bottom of the NCHC, but this is a team like we talked about last week who always seems to have our number. At least in recent years, Jason. We went 1-3 against Miami last year, so anything was possible coming into this series. Friday night, Jason, UNO gets off to a fast start. 1 minute in, Matt Miller gets the goal with assist Ty Mueller and Jack Randall. UNO gets up 1-0, Jason. UNO tends to be very successful when they score first in games. What did you think of that goal by Miller? What did you think of UNO's chances a minute in to the Friday night game?
I felt okay about it. I'd much rather get the first goal than give up the first goal. I think that's pretty obvious. But we play better with the lead. Most teams play better with the lead. So that really kind of helped. I was a little worried about sometimes we have a tendency to score a goal and then just kind of let off our system. Just get a little too comfortable with things. And for a while there, it was kind of looking like that was the case. Post midway through the first period, Miami evens the score. And I tell you, going into that first intermission, I was like, this is going to be one of those games that we're going to struggle to talk about because it was seeming like that usual UNO thing where we were playing down to Miami. And Miami was going to do their thing and just kind of hang around and wait for a late bounce their way and bang, bang. And they pull out, 3 points out of the weekend. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we can't go through this again.
But the second period was all UNO, Jason. And 4:36 into the period, Jimmy Glynn gets what turns out to be the game-winning goal. It was only his second goal of the season. And I'll tell you, we've seen him have a lot of opportunities this season. He's kind of like this season's Tristan Keck. For the fans who don't remember, Tristan Keck was a guy who constantly got great looks at the net, but he just couldn't put them in. They were high, they were wide. And so Jimmy Glynn gets his second goal of the season, which turns out to be the game-winning goal. It was followed up a few minutes later by Pavanka, who puts UNO up 3-1, a good position for them to be in at that point. And then midway through the second period, Matt Miller bookends the scoring for the night with an assist from Jack Randall. The goal came off of a cross ice pass for Randall. So UNO gets the first night win, which was a good result. It was a good tone setter for the weekend. What did you think after that Friday night win, Jason?
It took a lot of pressure off of us for the weekend. The guys seemed to be a little bit stressed in that first game. And I think it was because, like we talked about, you have to beat the teams that you need to beat if you want to stay where you are. And I don't know if they scoreboard watch, but we weren't getting a lot of help from Denver or Western Colorado College series. So you got to be looking at those thinking, we're going to have to take care of this. And there were a lot of passes that were missed. There was a lot of outlets that just were close but not on, and just a lot of little mistakes and giveaways in our zone that we've kind of been plagued by. I was really hopeful after that win that come Saturday's game that we would just have no fear and just kind of go out there and fly around.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, though, going into that Saturday night game, I was a little bit worried when the lineups came out before the game on Saturday night. Ty Mueller, who's been a key part of our offense, he was a scratch for the night. Nolan Krenzen, Brock Bremer, Caden Bolson, all four really key players for UNO in the lineup. But certainly Mueller was the big one. Somebody had told me that he took a puck on Friday night. I did not see that. I don't know if you saw that or not, Jason, but going into that game, I was a little bit concerned. And to be honest with you, the game was really, really close. It was 0-0 for most of the way. And I thought the Mavs seemed like they were having trouble getting the puck out of their defensive zone. They were having trouble sustaining puck possession in their offensive zone. It looked like one of those games where a little weird bounce, a weird bobble, the game could go either way, but 3:59 into the third period, Jimmy Glenn, the guy we talked about last night who got the game-winning goal, gets the first goal for UNO. The first goal of the game puts UNO up 1-0 early in the third period. Jason, how did you think UNO had played up until that point when Glenn got the goal?
I thought we were pretty sloppy. There were some plays to be excited about. There were some really good opportunities that we just could not convert on. Generally speaking, it just didn't seem to be sharp, and there didn't seem to be kind of the energy that we've had in other games, and that could come back to haunt you. Like you said, Glenn gets us on the board, and that takes some pressure off late. You mentioned Mueller being out, and he's one of those guys that we do rely a lot on. He plays power play, he plays penalty kill, so he's an all situations guy. We also missing Bolson, like we missed him for injury earlier this season, and he's that energy guy. He's not the guy that's probably going to be on the score sheet every night. He's probably not going to make your leading scorer role, but he seems to bring an energy to this team that we were really missing on Saturday. I felt like there just wasn't a lot of a get up and go.
He's a guy that I know you've been impressed with this season. I've been impressed with him. So tough not having him in the lineup. One of the interesting controversies early in the game, and this was when Kirby Proctor and Miami's Dylan Moulton got called for coincidental minors for roughing, was Tyler Rollwagon. And this was at 1925 in the first period. Tyler Rollwagon gets called, and on the score sheet it says unsportsmanlike conduct, but when the official went out to center ice and flipped his microphone on, he said 2 minutes for shooting the puck, which I guess was the unsportsmanlike conduct. What did you think of Tyler Rollwagon getting 2 minutes, Jason, for shooting the puck at the end of the first? I know you stopped by as you were headed down the stairs to the concourse to mention that, but I thought that was interesting. A lot of fans were talking about that on Twitter.
I'm sure there was an actual penalty there. I would hope there's actually a penalty there, but it was not communicated effectively to the audience. It's like there is an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for shooting the puck into the net after the whistle. And it exists for player safety because goalies can often be in a very vulnerable position. And so when the whistle blows, all players are supposed to just let up and you shouldn't finish that play. I never saw it. Like, I never saw the puck get shot anywhere. So I'm very confused by that. And when you come out and just say 2 minute penalty for shooting the puck, it's kind of like, I think I yelled, like, what sport are we playing here? Because last I checked, that was the point of hockey, was to shoot the puck and score goals. So to get a penalty for it seems kind of ridiculous.
As Jason and I have talked about many times, some interesting officiating from the NCHC officials. Cameron Berg goes on with about 25 seconds left in the third period. Jason, he caps off the scoring. The UNO ends up winning the game 2-0. Freshman goaltender Simon Lacozy gets a shutout, his first as a UNO Maverick. Berg's goal, Jason, was the only power play goal on the weekend, and it was an empty net goal. UNO went 1 for 9 on the power play this weekend. What are your thoughts on that? I know we were talking about that. Normally, the power play is one of our strengths. We are a good, solid power play team. Credit to Dave Noel Bernier, who coaches the power play. Well, what did you think against a team like Miami going 1 for 9 on the power play?
And it's not just going 1 for 9. It's how you go 1 for 9. And it's like, I don't even want to counter one. It's 2 seconds left in the power play, and they'd already pulled their goalie trying to get back in it because they were down by 1. Like, it's an empty net power play goal. In my book, I know on the score sheet it counts, but like, I'm not counting that one. I'm saying we're 0 for 8. Like, it's just, and it was there just didn't seem to be urgency to get the puck to the net. And when we did have opportunities, we were missing wide, especially our defensemen. There were a couple times that I saw Mancini just have, where we sit sometimes in the different periods, like you have a pretty good angle from things that happen on that side. And so I really felt like we were almost like right behind him. kind of seeing that same lane, and he did a great job of getting himself into position to make the shot, to give himself a chance, and he puts it, 6-8 inches to the left. It's deflating when you do all these really good things. You have all these really good plays that lead up to nothing. It was frustrating because I really felt going into this when we were talking last week that the difference maker really was going to be special teams. Our power play being so highly ranked and their penalty kill being so lowly ranked meant that if we can just stay level 5-on-5 with Miami, like, I liked our chances. And when we got so many power plays on Friday, like, I kept thinking one of these has got to go in, right? And it just didn't seem like they had the connection that they've had in the past so far this season. And I'm kind of hoping it's just a one-off thing, because if this continues, it's not going to go well for us in Kalamazoo when we go out to Western Michigan.
UNO is on a 5-game winning streak currently, going back to the loss against St. Lawrence on December 30th. And the Mavs, as you alluded to, are currently sitting in third place in the conference. St. Cloud and Denver are first and second with 29 points. We're right up there at 27. Western Michigan is sitting there in fourth place with 25 points, and Colorado College is sixth with 20. So anything can happen. Two of the stalwarts, as we've talked about before, Minnesota Duluth and North Dakota, are sitting sixth and seventh respectively. And this week's opponent, Miami, is in last place with 7 points in the conference. Jason, like you said, they've got to keep things going. What do you think about where UNO stands right now? I mean, it's a pretty great position considering how young this team is. A lot of new guys filling key roles for UNO. It's a good position for them to be in.
It is, and it's an unexpected position, I think, for a lot of people. Even us, I think at the preseason, you would remind me, I think you put them fifth, maybe?
I did. I picked them fifth.
Yeah, and I was thinking that was like an overly optimistic approach to the season, given that young talent, where chemistry was going to hit, losing goal scorers and saying, how are we going to get the puck in the net? Because I really didn't see last season, a lot from Mueller offensively, and we certainly didn't see what we're seeing this season from Jack Randall. So there's a lot of surprises this season. The hesitation is, down the stretch now, where we're seeing NCHC teams week in and week out. The realist in me is thinking, like, when does this regress back to the norm? As we say in statistics, like, we're overperforming, and at some point in time we're going to come back, or can they ride this all the way through is a big question. But we're sitting in a point where even if we have a bad weekend next weekend, we're still going to be in fourth because Colorado College can't catch us that weekend. So that's a relief that like, one weekend's not going to necessarily hurt you, but you are in a tight race. You are within striking distance because you're only 2 points out of first. So you're within striking distance of being the top team in what arguably is one of the top conferences in college hockey. But you also just as easily in a couple weekends could slip out of a home playoff spot. So there's a lot of pressure on guys to keep this up. Do you think we can do this? Do you think they can hold on to this performance that they've been doing and keep pushing in the standings?
I don't have the foggiest idea, Jason, what they can do. I think they have a really good opportunity. You've in a couple weeks, you've got Colorado College coming into town. They've got a road swing out at Miami. You get St. Cloud at home, and then you cap off the season with North Dakota. So I think that there's a really good opportunity for UNO if they just stay resilient, keep playing strong. They could finish near the top of the conference. They could finish in the bottom half of the conference at this point. There's still so much in flux, and a lot of it depends on how they play, what our injury situation. Hopefully we'll get Ty Mueller back for that Western Michigan series because we could really use him in the lineup for that. It'll just be interesting to see, but it's a great position for UNO to be in. It was good to get the sweep of Miami, even though it was ugly at times. Good to get those 2 wins and those 6 points. It keeps UNO in a great position in the conference. So we'll just have to see, Jason. But I've got to ask you who your player of the the weekend is. Last weekend, you picked grad student Jake Pavanka, who had a really nice weekend in UNO's sweep against Minnesota Duluth. Who did you like in our sweep against the Miami RedHawks?
Well, I think the obvious choice I'll take just to get them off the board and put a little bit more pressure on you. But Jimmy Glenn had probably the best weekend I've seen him have this season. And with a pair of game winners this weekend, for a while there, I thought might be the only game on Saturday, the only goal on Saturday's game. And it's more than that. Like, I really liked his effort. He seems to be gelling well with that line. He's kind of one of those grind them out kind of guys. Coach talks about character guys a lot. I think Jimmy Glenn really kind of fits that. I know him and Miller are there's a lot of camaraderie there. I see them together a lot in the lobbies with the post-game celebration and stuff. I'll take Glenn and put some pressure on you and see who you take.
It was good to see him break through and have some scoring success this weekend, because in recent weeks he's had a number of great opportunities. So great for Jimmy Glenn to have some success. I'm going to pick a player you just mentioned. Matt Miller had 2 goals on Friday night. He bookended the scoring. He's third on the team in scoring with 9 goals and 10 assists. He's a player I really liked. Originally, he was a commit to Michigan State. Ends up coming to UNO, and I think he's been a great fit for Coach Gabinet's system. Friday night was Miller time. Glad to see him have success, Jason.
Yeah, he's another kid that I really like. It's been a good player for UNO.
And the other player I almost picked, Jason, was Simon Lacosi, the freshman goaltender. He had his first shutout as a Mav on Saturday nights, and he has a 1.95 goals against average this season. So the past few outings for him have been really good, and I'm excited to see how he does down the stretch. It's been relatively rare to see Coach Gabinet stick with a 2-goalie rotation, but both of the goaltenders, Kuharski on Friday, Lacosi on Saturday, it's worked out well for UNO.
You could have picked them as a unit. When they're only playing one game, it's hard to pick one or the other, because they both had really good performances this weekend. And as a unit, the goaltending has been a pleasant series. And that was another one of the things that going into the season, there were a lot of question marks for UNO, was what was the goaltending going to look like? You've got a freshman European coming in, and sometimes they have trouble adjusting to the size of the ice and the angles in net, the play in front of them, and some of the physicality that comes with American hockey, North American hockey. So he's really adapted well. And then you've got a transfer coming in. You just don't know how they're going to adapt to a new system and stuff. Friday night, I was about ready to think that Mueller was going to be my pick for the weekend, because I really thought he had an excellent game on Friday. I struggled with whether or not I should pick him, even though he didn't play on Saturday because of the injury. He's another guy we gotta call out this weekend, because like we said earlier, plays every situation, is a glue guy for this team, and when he's performing well, this team performs well.
Ty Mueller is great. Hope he's back in the lineup this upcoming weekend for Western Michigan. We shall see. But before we talk about that Western Michigan series, we have our Things You Missed at Baxter Arena. We had another figure skater from the Figure Skating Club of Omaha on Friday night. She was wearing a very sparkly outfit. So that's become part of the Friday night intermission routine. Saturday night, we had the UNO alumni band. My understanding is that some of the alumni band members mixed in with the regular pep band members. I wanted to give a shout out to Tim Wagner, who played the trombone, and Michael Sharp, who pointed out that the alumni band was going to be there. So Bridget got some footage of that. So always nice to see UNO alums come back and perform with the pep band and support the team. When they do the Lawler's T-shirt cannon T-shirt toss, because we sit in the upper bowl near the top in 216, the T-shirt doesn't always make it our way, but on Friday night, the cheerleaders came up and threw t-shirts to our section. This was kind of a rarity, but I thought I would point it out since we talk about all these little things. And we got one of the shirts. It's just a simple white t-shirt that says Baxter. What do you think of that shirt, Jason?
I've seen people unravel them when they get them. I've never seen someone wear one yet, so I'm going to challenge you to actually put it on for one of these games.
I really should have put it on for this podcast. So speaking of t-shirts, Jason is wearing the gray Omaha hockey t-shirt that Summit Dental gave out on Saturday night. The first 500 fans got one of the shirts. Jason, what do you think about the design of the shirt? What do you think about t-shirt giveaways before the game? Because it feels like it's been a while since they've done a t-shirt giveaway.
Gosh, when was that there was that season that they did the giveaway that was on every seat, and so everyone got one.
I was trying to remember. That was the whiteout game that they did. That was for a game against North Dakota. That might have been 2018 or 2019. Time flies, but yeah, I think that was the last time I remember them doing a t-shirt giveaway. I could be wrong, but yes, you can see Jason modeling the shirt there. Omaha Hockey on the front, the Summit Dental logo on the back. And Summit Dental was responsible for the bobbleheads that we talked about in the first half of the season. So Summit Dental's coming up big. I still think they should sponsor the podcast, Jason. So that was kind of a nice little perk. On the screen on Saturday nights during the intermission, there was a throwback guessing game sponsored by AARP. And as somebody who turned 50 last October, I have been getting mailings from AARP. I got my membership information from AARP. I have not signed up for AARP yet, but this was interesting. They had the players guessing what's old school technology was. They had a typewriter image for the players to guess. They had one of the original floppy disks, one of those truly floppy disks from back in the day. They had a pager beeper having the guys guess what those were. I saw a little bit of it. I was visiting with another fan during intermission, but that was an interesting new thing, Jason. I can't remember. I don't think you saw that. I think you were out in the concourse during that, right?
Yeah, I was on the concourse, so I did not. I watched the video of it, and that's what I've seen. It was an interesting little thing. I like those things. So yeah, those are always kind of fun. I would look forward to UNO doing more of those. Put our players in some awkward situation kinds of things.
The guesses for what the floppy disk was were pretty entertaining. So we've got some player honors going on, Jason. The NCHC, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. They just released a docu-series online called The Rise of the NCHC. Jason and I will be talking about that in a future episode, but the first episode's online. You can find a little write-up I did about it and the video in the news section on Mavpuck.com. So they're doing a historical perspective on the origins of the conference. But one of the things, and we were talking about this via text this week, that the NCHC is doing are their all NCHC decade teams. Initially, the players that they included on the list that fans get to vote on are the All-Americans and first-team All-Americans. And then there was a little bit of an outcry from a number of fans, including UNO fans, that Jake Ginsel was not included, considering the kind of success he's had in the NHL. But the UNO players included for you to vote on are former forwards Josh Archibald, David Pope, Austin Ortega, and the aforementioned Jake Ginsel. They updated their criteria now. And defenseman Luke Snuggerud. We don't have any goaltenders on the list for the all-decade team, but voting is now open and will run through Tuesday, January 31st. And fans are able to vote once per day. They can select 6 forwards, 4 defensemen, 2 goaltenders. And the NCHC has information about that on their Twitter account and on their website. And you can find a write-up I have about it in the news section on Mavpuck.com. But Jason, what do you think about an all-decade team? What did you think about the initial omission of Jake Ginsel from the list when it came out? What do you think about these sorts of things?
I think it's fun. It's great that it's doing now. It's kind of like all-star voting in the NHL, where they've opened that up to fan votes. And, it'd be interesting to see them have, if it was like UNO fans somehow vote, or, maybe it's UNO staff or something, vote on one player in, and then the fans get to fill out a roster. It'd be interesting to see them maybe balance it, a couple skaters from, each team, and say, like, these are kind of in the last decade, here's the best of each team type of thing. I'm really glad that they put Jake Gensel on there. I saw that they tweeted out an explanation as to why they left him off the original list. And I get that you have to draw the line somewhere, but he's one of those players that I was just like, it made no sense that he was left off that list, even though I understand the criteria that they were using to make that list.
I'm glad they updated and added some of those guys back in, because I obviously think that, some of these all conference, all decade type teams, it's about more than just, statistical leaders, et cetera. So yeah, get out there and vote. We would obviously encourage you to vote for the UNO players and don't vote for anybody else, because we don't want you diluting their chances of making one of the all decade teams, either the first team all decade or the second team all decade. And those all decade teams will be unveiled February 7th through 9th. So be sure you're following the NCHC on social media to find out who won. And then the final player honors that we have to talk about is the Hobey Baker nominees were announced on the Hobey Baker website at hobeybaker.com. And forward Jack Randall and Ty Mueller for UNO were on our list of Hobey Baker nominees. What do you think about those two guys being nominated? I think players are nominated by the school in this initial round. Fans can go to hobeybaker.com and find out more information. Currently, we're in the round where fans get to vote and narrow the list of Hobey Baker candidates. But what do you think of Randall and Mueller getting honored as our Hobey Baker nominees this year?
I think they're obvious choices. Randall, with the season that he's having, leading scoring. Mueller's just been, like we talked about, he's that all situations guy. So it makes sense, I think, that both of them on there. Given that, though, and what else is out there in college hockey, I'm not so sure that either of them are having the game-changing performance that you typically see from past award winners. So I think the world of them. I just don't think they're going to stack up very well when the writers start getting into the equation.
We've had some really legit candidates in the past. I remember back in the early 2000s, Scott Parse, one of the Hobey Baker finalists that we were all pushing for here. I remember the bus trip we did during the season that he was one of the top candidates for the Hobey Baker Award. We actually made shirts for our bus trip crew that said "Parse for Hobey" on it. So that was kind of a fun deal. Ryan Walters was another one that they promoted strongly for the Hobey Baker Award. And I remember UNO did a promotional T-shirt that they gave away to fans before a game that said "Wally for Hobey" for him. So great honor. You never know what'll come of it, but it's kind of fun to follow. So make sure to visit hobeybaker.com to vote. And you can find a link to that in the news section at mavpuck.com. But we've got to turn to our next series, and this is going to be an interesting series, Jason. In the first half of the season, we swept Western Michigan at Baxter Arena, and this Western team, they're no joke. They are 16-9-1 on the season. They are on a 6-game winning streak. In the past 2 weekends, they went on the road and swept North Dakota and Colorado College. Normally, when you think about Western Michigan in recent years, they're a team that's really strong in the confines of Lawson Ice Arena in Kalamazoo, but they went and had a couple of really good road series, Jason. The players to watch are the players that everybody in college hockey are watching. Senior forward Jason Poland has 23 goals and 13 assists on the season. He has like 5 hat tricks on the season. He's third in the nation in scoring. And then freshman forward Ryan McAllister has 11 goals, 29 assists on the season, and he leads the nation in scoring. Jason, we were talking a little bit about this before the podcast today. What do you think about UNO going on the road to Lawson Ice Arena, having to deal with a good Western Michigan team, having to deal with the raucous Lawson Lunatics, their student section in that arena? What do you think about UNO going into this key series in NCHC conference play?
While we swept them when they were here, they were not in either game what I would consider comfortable victories. That Friday night 7-6 win was friggin' tennis match. Like, they jump out to a 3-goal lead. We put up like 7 straight, and then they come back with 3 in the third, and we're like digging our nails into our seats thinking, when's the game tying goal coming? And it's like, and I said it leading into Miami and about the Miami series that I thought that was one of those series that the power play, the special teams was gonna matter, and I think it's gonna probably matter more here. They're a high scoring team. We don't want to give them a lot of looks in the power play. And we need to keep them under 1 for 5, 1 for 6 on the weekend to have a reasonable expectation that we're going to be able to kind of win that special teams battle. If we don't win the special teams battle, with the offensive powerhouse that their top line has been, I don't know where it comes from. We need the guys to step up. We need the Jimmy Glynn's, Matt Millers to step up, have some production, just to take the attention away from the Weiss Bavanka line and Mueller's line, if assuming that Mueller's back. If we can do that, if we can get that rounded out scoring, I like our chances, especially if we can convert 25% on our power play.
UNO is going to need production out of their top 3 lines this weekend in order to be successful. It should be an interesting series. The game times, the Friday game is at 6 p.m. Omaha time. The Saturday game is going to be at 5 p.m. It looks like Western Michigan, who's in the Eastern time zone, is doing the earlier time on Saturday night. A number of NCHC teams are doing that. I'm going to throw a little wrench in here, Jason, before we give our picks. But what do you, as somebody who has 2 daughters who are involved in a number of activities on the weekends during the fall and winter months, what do you think potentially in the future about UNO starting the Saturday game time at 6 o'clock Omaha time instead of 7 p.m. as they've been doing for years and years?
I have concerns about it from a team standpoint. You wouldn't think that the hour makes a difference, but most hockey players I know, particularly the ones playing at high levels, are very routine orientated. They eat the same meals at the same time. They do the same warm-ups at the same time. They make sure they listen to the same music. They tie the same skate. They put the same shin pad on. Like, your equipment goes on in an order, and we don't mess with the order. Like, they're superstitious, routine orientated, whatever you want to call that. So part of me just wonders, how that would throw off our rhythm. Obviously other teams have done it and it doesn't seem to affect them. So maybe there really isn't anything to that. But as a parent, honestly, it kind of sometimes feels like a money grab. It's like right now at a 7 o'clock start, I've got time to, hit one of the restaurants in Exarban Village, or, fix dinner for the kids and us at home before we go. If you're talking about a 6 o'clock start, I don't know that we want to eat that early. You start questioning when you're going to do stuff, and then you're, buying food at the game, and that's really expensive. So I hope that if they do it, they do some sort of family food pack, or discounted kids meals, or something to kind of ease the challenges from a family standpoint of how you logistically move around that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they try it. I still have mixed emotions. I don't know how I feel about it at all. I tend to be a creature of habit, so I'm fine with 7 p.m. on Friday and 7 p.m. on Saturday night for the games. But it does seem to be a small trend in the world of college hockey on that Saturday night game to start it an hour early. So we'll see what UNO decides to try in the future. But in this game up at Western Michigan, I'm going to say we find a way to win Friday nights and we lose Saturday nights against the Broncos.
I'm with you on the split piece. I honestly think you're probably right that we win Friday and lose Saturday. But for the sake of having some deference to the podcast, I'll take the flip side of that and say that we lose on Friday and win on Saturday.
You can watch both of those games on NCHC.TV, which is the NCHC's subscription service. But be sure to follow Mavpuck on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Bridget will be tweeting live updates during both of those games on Twitter on Friday and Saturday nights. Visit Mavpuck.com for links to our social channels, back episodes of this podcast. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, we have a news section with all kinds of interesting little articles and tidbits that I've put together. So until next time, Jason, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.